Hey guys, and welcome back to another Shadow Priest video. In this video, I'm going to do another log analysis. This time, I was asked by Cheek Slapper to take a look at this log and see how they could have done better, um, and how they can look at the log themselves to identify what they can do better, rather than just asking me to tell them what they can do better, right? So this is the log that has 4 shadow priests in it. So you can kind of get an idea of what other people did on the exact same fight as you, right? So you can see how you could do better compared to them or stuff like that. So okay, so first things first, what I always like to do whenever I look at somebody's logs is I click on their name and I click on summary. Okay, so we can immediately see this person is Necrolord. So, um, Necrolord is the second best covenant for Shadow Priest for PvE. Um, so I would swap Night Fae if I was you, but Necrolord does okay. And then the next thing we're going to look at is your talents. So first off, this talent is correct, this talent is correct, Misery is incorrect. We're looking at Hungering Destroyer Heroic, by the way. So Hungering Destroyer is one of the only fights in Castle Nathria that is pure single target, right? You only ever hit the one guy. So on Hungering Destroyer, on a pure single target fight, you want to run Twist of Fate instead of Misery. So this will be not a massive damage loss, but especially near the end of the fight when the boss is low health, you're going to be significantly behind somebody who has Twist of Fate. So I would swap Misery for Twist of Fate. Last Word is fine, Auspicious Spirits is fine, Mindbender is correct because you're running Shadow Flame Prism. Then Hungering Void is also correct for a single target fight. So the only change I'd make as far as talents go is run Twist of Fate instead of Misery. And the way you can see that is if you click on this and then you click on Hungering Destroyer. Actually, we can do it real quick. Click on Hungering Destroyer. Actually, we wanted rankings. You pull up Hungering Destroyer. You click on Mythic, turn it to Heroic. You click on all classes. You go Priest, Shadow, and you're gonna look at what the talents are that the top Shadow Priests are running. So you'll see that this guy's running Misery, but outside of that guy, pretty much everybody is running Twist of Fate, right? So these are the talents that you want to run. And if we go over just one more, just a subtle flex real quick, I'm rank 117 on this fight, booyah. And these are the talents that I ran, so. Swap that for Twist of Fate, is what I would say. And that's how you can find out. Every time I'm about to do a new fight, I click on this, I click on the fight, right? I go to rankings, let's say I'm looking for Mythic Enerva Darkvein, I click on Priest. This will just give you Shadow Priests because Holy and Disc aren't never going to do this much damage. Then I'm like, okay, I probably want to run these talents, right? And I probably want to run these trinkets, and I probably want to run these conduits, right? And this legendary. I would say take this stuff with a grain of salt, especially at the very, very high end, especially on heroic bosses, because some of these, like this Vikland guy, he got 8 power infusions. So what this guy ran is probably not what you should run, because you're not going to get 8 power infusions. This guy did this specifically for this, to get a super, super high parse. This is not, you're not going to be getting 8 power infusions and 3 benevolent fairies, right? So this is what I would say if you're ever looking at, what talents should I run on a fight, what conduits, all that stuff. Come look at this and take a look at all these and see, maybe what you should be running. So that takes us into your soulbinds and conduits. I'm pretty sure Ameni is the one that you want to run for Necrolord. Not positive, although I think this lead by example is why. Your primary stat by 5% is pretty huge, especially with intellect being so strong right now. So I think you're running the right soulbind, uh, but then your conduits are, you've got three correct conduits and one that this one is the one that I would swap out. So um, on Hungering Destroyer, you never need to uh, dispel anybody, right? So this Clear Mind, that's what most people run. Um, there's not really a finesse conduit that is super helpful for a single target fight like this, so Clear Mind is a fine choice. It doesn't really matter what you run here. But there is an endurance conduit that would be stronger than Light's Inspiration in this particular moment. The only difference is this Light's Inspiration is at item level 213, and maybe so the other one that you would run is called, it's the Fade one that gives you 6%. It's a Translucent Image, I think. Um, you would run that one if it was. It might actually be better at item level 200 than this one is at 213. It's just you should look into that because the Translucent Image as a endurance conduit is huge. It's like a, depending on the rank, it's like a 5% to a 10% damage reduction for the first 5 seconds of Fade. So instead of Desperate Prayer healing you for an additional 6% of your maximum health, you can just avoid that damage altogether on a shorter cooldown if you have the Fade Translucent Image conduit. So um, what I would have liked to see here is Twist of Fate and Translucent Image, but this is what you have, so those are things that I would look at changing. And the way you can know that you want Translucent Image instead of Light's Inspiration is, again, you go back, look at all the rankings, see what everybody else is running. Pretty much everybody runs Translucent Image, not Light's Inspiration, so keep that in mind. Okay, and then we go into your gear, the actual armor that you're wearing. First thing I notice is you're playing Shadow Flame Prism, but it's on your hands instead of your head. Not entirely sure the reasoning behind this. Most people put it on their headpiece because there are some really good hand pieces we can get from the raid, and possibly oversized mitts from Sludge Fist is really, really good. But maybe you don't ever expect to get any really, really good hand pieces, and you have this 223 item level headpiece that's pretty good. So maybe this is the correct choice just because you're never going to get a better hands piece and your headpiece is pretty good. So in that case, this is fine, but typically people put it on the head slot instead of the hand slot. But I'll cut you some slack for that. And then your neck. This is really, really good. This Insane Pendant, probably the second best neck. The only alternative would be, actually this might be better. You'd probably have to sim yourself, but either this or the neck from Huntsman Altimore on Mythic. But considering you're doing heroic on this fight, I'm gonna assume you don't have, and it looks like you don't have any Mythic kills. In which case, this is definitely the neck you want to run. This shoulder piece is fine. The white linen shirt, sure, it looks great. Got your 32 stamina buff on your chest piece, which is really good. You're using the consumable, which is awesome. Eternal Insight is correct. This chest piece is fine. The Cinch of Infinite Tightness is okay. You want Haste Mastery, so Crit Verse is not Haste Mastery, right? So it could be better. Probably swap this out for the Sash, the Shadow something Sash. I don't remember what it's called off the top of my head. These leggings are fine. They've got haste on them, but you're looking for Haste Mastery again. Crit Verse feet, which are wrong. You want Haste Mastery again. Haste Mastery here would be good. This ring is fine. It's a high haste ring. I run this one as well. This ring is okay, although it's high verse. Again, you want Haste Mastery, right? And then these trinkets, depending on how long you've been playing this character, this might be the best gear in your bags, right? In which case, there's nothing you can do, right, except for get better gear. So if this is the best gear in your bags, then these trinkets are fine. But if you have other trinkets in your bags, like maybe an Unbound Changeling, a Soul Letting Ruby, Kabbalist's Hymnal, uh, the PvP trinket, the Sinful Gladiator's Insignia of Alacrity. All four of those, even an Inscrutable Quantum Device, the box IQD, all five of those trinkets would be better than either of these trinkets. So any combination of those five would be better than both of these. The Sunblood Amethyst gives you some intellect. It's on a minute 30-second cooldown. Not great, and it's only 200 item level. So if you had any of those five, I'd replace this one first. And then this one is okay. It does a pretty big chunk of damage, but I would also replace this one with any of those five. Preferably at, 213, 220 item level if you can. And if you can't, then I would say you need to farm a lot of Mythic Plus to get a lot of Valor so that you can upgrade them to 220. Because now that Valor is out, you should not have this item level of trinkets. Granted, it all comes with playtime, so if you don't have a ton of playtime, then this is the best you can do, then there's, no worries. But if you have the time and you can put in more time and you're just using your time ineffectively, one thing to look at would be farming those trinkets and getting them to 220. That'll be a significant upgrade. If you had a 220 Soul Letting Ruby here instead of the Sunblood Amethyst, you'd be doing significantly more damage. Okay, then you have Dealer's IX's Cape. This one's okay. It's got Mastery on it, which is good. You've got the Minor Speed Increase enchant, which is okay. I go for the Avoidance one just to take less damage, but Minor Speed Increase is fine. This weapon is okay. I mean, it's Haste Mastery, so that's good, and you're running Sinful Revelation, and you have Shadow Core oil on, so that's all good. It's just item level 207. It should be obvious that you should be wearing the highest item level stuff that you have. So if this is your best weapon, then this is a good one actually. But if you have any higher item level weapons, they're almost certainly better than this. But I would say sim yourself. You just go to raidbots.com and you can sim yourself and see, what would be better than this. So okay, so as far as your enchants go, I will mention you have no sockets. And that's probably, I'm guessing that either this character is pretty new, or you're someone who doesn't have a lot of time to play the game, or you just don't know about sockets from Venari, or this is an alt, right? But there is a vendor in the Maw called Venari who will sell you sockets. So if you get to an exalted reputation with her, you just do the daily Maw quests every day. Eventually you'll get to exalted and you'll earn the currency called Stygia. You can buy sockets from her and you can put them on your rings, you can put them on your waist, you can put them on your neck, I'm pretty sure. You can put them on your wrists, for sure. So you can put them on a bunch of these different things and they'll give you more stats. So it's only an upgrade and it just takes a little bit of time. So that's something that I would suggest. Get sockets on your gear. But outside of that, your enchants look fine. 15 intellect is good. 16 haste is good. Shadowlands Gathering and Soul Treads don't matter. Soul Treads is actually a hidden OP enchant, I think. It's the one that reduces your fall damage, which is good. Especially on something like Denathrius, where you're going to take fall damage a couple times. Yeah, so that's fine. If we look at your stats, as you can tell, we mentioned this in your gear, you've got a lot of crit verse gear, like this heavy verse ring. Yeah, this one right here. That means that your stats are weighted wrong. So, well, you just have your stats are just wrong. It's the easiest way to say that. You've got a lot of haste, that's good. You've got a decent amount of intellect, also good. You've got a lot of crit, that's alright. And then you've got a ton of verse, that's bad. And then you've got like very little mastery, that's also bad. So your stat priority, especially in a single target fight like this, is haste, then mastery, then crit. Well, it's intellect, and then haste, and then mastery, and then crit, and then verse. What that translates to is basically highest item level is best, and then after that, if you have like two pieces of gear that are the exact same item level. You want the one that's haste heavy and has mastery as well. And then if you don't have one that's haste heavy and mastery, you want haste heavy and crit. If you don't have haste at all, then you want mastery and then crit, right? And you work your way down. So what I would like to see is haste 750, mastery 400, crit 401, versatility 291, right? Instead of this that you have right here. So your mastery is really low, which just means that your damage is going to be lower because our mastery directly translates to how much damage we do. Okay, so now that we've kind of torn apart your character sheet, right? We'll take a look at your rotation. So this is before we look at the other Shadow Priests in the group at all. So I like to have you selected, I click on casts, I click on timelines, and now you can see exactly what you cast and when you cast it, right? Okay, so your opener is a little weird. So it's going to be a little different because you have like this Terra Anima from your other trinket, but basically what you want to do, oh, and you're playing Misery, so this is correct actually. So you're not going to have any Shadow Word Pain casts. Well, actually it looks like you do, but you shouldn't because you're playing Misery. Anyway, so this is correct. You want to be pre-casting Vampiric Touch. As the pull timer says 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. When it gets to about 1.5, you want to start casting Vampiric Touch so that it hits as soon as the pull timer hits 0. So right here, you start casting it after the pull timer hits 0. You probably tried to press the button right when it hit 0. You can cast it before it hits 0 so that it actually applies to the person at 0. And this will just speed up your whole rotation by 1.5 seconds or so, right? So instead of casting this Mindbender at 2.6 seconds, you'd be casting at 1.1 second, right? Small improvement, but the opener is very important, especially on a Shadow Priest, so it's important to get this right. Okay, so you pop Vampiric Touch, and then you hit your Terra Anima. This one gives you Intellect, so you should save this for right before you get into Void Form, probably. You might actually... What I typically do is I pop my Power Infusion and my Trinket right after I cast Mindbender. So this is almost right. I'd probably just move it over one. Move your Power Infusion back to here so that you get it with your Mindbender. And then as far as the Unholy Nova goes, I think this Anima font is part of this Terra Anima thing, so I'm going to ignore that. Unholy Nova, you definitely want to shoot it off before you get into Void Form, pretty sure. And then, yeah, as soon as you get into Void Form, I can talk about the stuff that I know for certain, which is the rotation inside Void Form. The only reason I say that is I've never played a Necrolord Shadow Priest, so I'm going to be a little off as far as when you use your Covenant ability and stuff like that. But I do know that regardless of what you're playing, as long as you're not Kyrian, I guess, the rotation inside Void Form with your Mindbender up should be something like this. So cast Void Eruption. As soon as it goes off, you cast Void Bolt. Also, I should mention, this is good. You cast your Mindbender, Shadow Word Death, Mind Blast, and then Void Eruption. So your Mind Blast is on cooldown when you cast Void Eruption. That's good. That means that as soon as you get into Void Form, you'll get 2 stacks of Mind Blast that you can use during Void Form, right? And you cancel the cooldown of this one. So get into Void Form, first thing you cast is Void Bolt. Perfect. You're using Hungering Void, so you want to cast as many Void Bolts as possible. This is correct. And then immediately after this Void Bolt goes out, you want to cast Mind Blast. So this is also correct. And then Devouring Plague so that you don't overcap on Insanity. Then your very next cast should be Void Bolt. Instead you cast Mind Blast, which is wrong, but not horribly wrong. So just replace this one with this one. So go, just if you want to remember for when you're actually playing the game, just remember Void Bolt, Mind Blast, Devouring Plague. Void Bolt, Mind Blast, Devouring Plague. VMD. Void Bolt, Mind Blast, Devouring Plague. That should just be, if you don't remember anything else from this video, inside your Void form, when you have Mindbender up, so in the like opening rotation, or if you line them up later on, make sure you go Void form, immediately Void Bolt, immediately Mind Blast, immediately Devouring Plague. Just do that over and over and over and over again, and you'll do pretty good damage. So instead, you go Void Bolt, Mind Blast, Devouring Plague, that's right, and then you Mind Blast again. You should have Void Bolted, but that's fine, so you just replace these two. Then you Devouring Plague, that's good. But then you cast 2 Mind Flays. So I'm guessing you cast one and then moved or something and then cast it again. Or maybe you just press the button twice. This Mind Flay shouldn't be here. You wouldn't expect to see a Mind Flay until probably about here, because you have enough insanity and your cooldowns are coming up fast enough, especially because you lusted at this time, that you should just be going, like I said before, Void Bolt, Mind Blast, Devouring Plague. Do that all the way until you can't do it anymore, and then when you can't do it anymore, you press Mind Flay until you can do it some more, right? So because of this, you end up having this Void Bolt at 7 seconds, this one at 10 seconds. These can probably be a little closer. This one is at 14. It can definitely be closer. This next one is at 18. Can definitely be closer. Which just means that you do your most damage while you're in Void form, and your Void form isn't going to last as long because you don't have very many Void Bolts going out. You could cast way more Void Bolts in this amount of time, which would make your Void form last longer. See, your Void form drops at like, it looks like probably around 27 seconds. It could be up to 40 seconds plus, right? So that's a huge thing that you should work on, is casting more Void Bolts. And then on top of that, the other side of that coin is when Mindbender is out, you want to be doing the exact same thing, but instead of with Void Bolts, you want to be casting Mind Blasts and Shadow or Death. So you want to make sure that you cast Shadow or Death as often as possible because it's got a really long cooldown. You cast it as soon as it's up. Then your Mind Blasts, you want to be casting them as much as possible as well. So just right off the bat, your Void form rotation could use a little bit of improvement, but you know, not horrible, right? At least you are casting those right buttons, right? It's good to be casting this, it's good to be casting this, and it's good to be casting this. Probably press Mind Flay a lot less, especially during these giant rotations. And it's also good that you're using your trinkets. So you did use your Anima trinket, and you did use your Dread Fire Vessel. So it's good that you're actually pressing your buttons, right? Then outside of that, it looks like you cast Power Word Shield twice. That's something that I'll need to look at a little bit later. Yeah, definitely, because you have a lot of Power Word Shield casts, which are unnecessary, typically. So let's go ahead and let's look at... So that's what your rotation looks like at the beginning. Let's look at the guy, this Sparabool guy, who did the most damage, right? So we look back at the damage for everybody. This guy did... Whoa, want tables. This guy did 1,000 DPS more than anybody else in the fight, right? And Shadow Priests are by far the best on this fight, so you would expect a good Shadow Priest to be doing a lot more damage than anybody else in the fight. So this is right. So let's take a look at his rotation real quick and see how it differs from yours that you might want to look at. So we go to timelines, so we go to him, we go to casts, we go to timelines. Okay, so for his rotation, he's a troll, so he's got berserking, which is not huge. I didn't see what you were. I think you were a blood elf. As far as racials go, the troll racial is probably best outside of what's the other one? Mechanome, I think, is actually the best, but the haste from berserking is really, really good for damage. The alternative is a lot of people play goblin so that they have a goblin jump to move around it better, but okay, so looking at his rotation, I don't see any vampiric touches at the beginning, which is a bad sign. I don't know if he even had his dots up. So he cast his first vampiric touch 40 something seconds in. Let's just go real quick before I get into this too much. Let's see the damage taken, Hungering Destroyer, tables. Oh wow, this is a big table. All sources, Sparabool. So I'm just gonna see if Vampiric Touch. Okay, so he did have Vampiric Touch on this guy from the very beginning. So what that is saying is that we go back to casts, we go back to not all enemies, we go back to friendlies, go to this Sparabool guy, go to timelines. This guy cast Vampiric Touch and Shadow Word Pain, like I was telling you to, before the fight actually started, which is good because then he can immediately get into all the other stuff. She also does pretty well here, almost. So he casts his potion, his berserking, power infusion, and soul letting ruby. You'll notice these aren't right on top of each other. That means they're not macroed together for sure, because he had to press it twice. That's good. And then he casts Fey Guardians, which is what you want to cast first, and then he casts his Mindbender, Shadow Word Death, Mind Blast, and then he's immediately into the rotation. And this guy is also doing the Mindbender rotation incorrectly. So you want to go Void Eruption, Void Bolt, Mind Blast, then Devouring Plague. Void Bolt, Mind Blast, Devouring Plague. Void Bolt, Mind Blast, Devouring Plague. Instead, this guy's going Void Bolt, Devouring Plague, Mind Blast, right? But you'll notice there are no Mind Flays in here all the way until he should eventually, yeah, he casts one about 20 seconds in, like I was saying before. So if you'll notice that for like the first 15 seconds of Void form, all he's doing is Void Bolt, Devouring Plague, and Mind Blast. But it should be Void Bolt, Mind Blast, Devouring Plague. But those are the only buttons he's pressing this whole time until Shadow Word Death comes off cooldown. Then he's hitting that immediately, and then he's back into that simple rotation of those 3 abilities, right? So then he finally runs out of Mind Blast charges, so he casts a Mind Flay. But then as soon as he can, he's back into the rotation, which is correct. You get a Devouring Plague, another Shadow Word Death, back into the rotation. There's another Mind Flay right here where he has not enough insanity for Devouring Plague. And then he's back into this, and then boom, you're into you're outside of Void form. So his Void form lasts 32 seconds, almost 33, compared to your Void form that lasted, let's go see real quick. Your Void form lasted, your last Void Bolt was at about 26 seconds. So his Void form was like 20, or not 20, 6, 7, or 8 seconds longer than yours. Which just means that he's going to do more damage naturally, because Void form makes you do more damage, right? Okay, so that's like the very first huge difference between the two of you. I'll also just take a look real quick at his summary. So this person is a Night Fae playing Naya, that's correct. They've also got Light's Inspiration, which again, I think is incorrect. You should take Translucent Image. They're running Twist of Fate, which is what you should have been running, right? They've got Shadow Flame Prism on their hands as well, instead of their helmet. But they also have 2 sockets, right? So that's 32 mastery that you don't have, that they do, because they have those 2 sockets. And their stats are a lot closer to what you would want. So they've got 900 haste, that's a ton of haste. They've got 600 mastery, so they've got a ton of haste and mastery, but then almost no crit and almost no verse. The crit is okay, it's just pretty low, but almost no verse. So his stats, just by looking at these numbers, are better than yours, which means that he's just going to do more damage strictly because of math, right? And it's not just because his item level is higher, although having a higher item level will give you more stats, right? His item level is higher, but also this is haste verse, this is haste mastery, this is haste crit, this is haste crit, haste crit again. This is the waste you should get, by the way, Shade Warped Sash. Haste mastery, crit mastery, verse, so mastery verse, haste mastery on his legendary, haste mastery ring, haste crit ring, soul letting ruby, insignia of alacrity. So you'll notice that only like 2 pieces of all his gear have verse on them at all, and most of them are haste heavy. So like this one has a lot of haste. This one has a lot of haste. This one has a mostly mastery. This one's some haste. This one's mostly haste, right? So this is a one thing that you can do before you ever press any buttons is make sure you have the right numbers, right? And when I'm talking numbers, I'm talking these numbers. If you set these numbers up correctly and you play the exact same way versus someone who has these numbers set up incorrectly, even if you press the exact same buttons at all the exact same times, the person with the right numbers will do more damage, just straight up. Just because of math, right? Their spells are going to hit harder, they're going to tick faster, they're going to have a higher chance to crit, let's say, stuff like that. So the last thing I want to look at real quick with you is casts of Power Word Shield, because I noticed that this might be a problem for you. This Sparabool guy casts Power Word Shield 8 times over the course of this fight. I also want to mention that this Sparabool guy almost certainly didn't play this fight perfectly. Actually, certainly didn't, because we noticed with his rotation earlier that there are a couple little changes he could make. But he's a good one that you should look at because, like I was saying before, exact same fight as you, did significantly more damage than you did, right? About 1.6k more damage. And some of that will be made up by item level, but anyway, so if we look at Sparabool, we look at casts. He casts Power Word Shield 8 times over the course of the fight, and you cast Power Word Shield 9 times over the course of the fight. Okay, so that's not bad. Although you did have 3 like right back to back right here, so maybe something was going on where you're taking damage or something. But the reason I bring this up is just because you don't want to be casting Power Word Shield more than you have to. A lot of people use Power Word Shield as a crutch. They're like, oh, I can wait a little bit longer to move because I have an increased move speed ability called Power Word Shield, if you're playing Body and Soul, that will let me get there faster. Don't try to avoid that as much as you can. Only cast Power Word Shield when you have to, or when it's going to be a significant, improvement to what's going on, right? Maybe you need to soak something and it's going to hit you for a lot of damage and you don't have you're out of range of the boss, let's say, so you can't hit him at all. Then a Power Word Shield there is a good idea, right? But try to avoid using it too often. Okay, so outside of that, that's pretty much all I've got for you so far. You can, click on this guy, do exactly what I did. Go to his casts, go to the timelines, look at his opener, look at his next void form, which would be right about here, right? Look at this void form and see how he does this one differently. Look at, all of that. Also, a really big thing about why he did so much more damage than you on this fight specifically is just that he's Night Fae, he's higher item level, you're Necrolord, you're lower item level. Also, the very last thing I want to say to you, sorry that I'm dragging this out so long, the very last thing I want to say about Cheek Slapper right here is if we look at your summary, you're playing Shadowflame Prism, but you're a Necrolord, right? Shadowflame Prism is worse for Necrolords than it is for Night Fae Shadow Priests, because Night Fae Shadow Priests have more time in Void form than Necrolords do, which means that you'll get more Mind Blasts over the course of the fight, which makes Shadowflame Prism better. So you're probably better off playing Talbadar's Stratagem. So that is something that I would say, look into that. Go to raidbots.com, enter your character stuff, figure out if Shadowflame Prism is actually your best legendary, or if you're just wearing it because it's best for most people, right? Because yours is probably Talbadar's Stratagem. Okay, so hopefully this helped. Hopefully you don't take anything personally. I don't think you're a bad player or anything. We're all just looking for ways to improve. You did better than, almost the whole raid. You're like top half of the raid, top 6, so that's good. And the other good thing is that you're looking to improve, right? So these are all good things. Hopefully this helped. If you guys found this video helpful, then leave a like. If I've earned your subscription, feel free to subscribe. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to leave a comment. Um, Feel free to join my Discord server. There's a link in the description. And you can catch me on Twitch, twitch.tv/nicknock. I stream there sometimes. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this video up here. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a great day. Peace.